Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on the Floriology podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining me, Jackie Lacey, is Victoria Register with FernTrust Ferneries, or
FernTrust Incorporated.
FernTrust Incorporated. And we've had a great tour today of the facility and the farms, the greenhouses. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the company, where the company started, how long you've been here?
Yeah. So I know you guys went around with my father today and did a bunch of behind the scenes stuff, but basically I don't know what information he gave you. I'll give you my snippet of our history.
Perfect.
So we started out originally in citrus, not FernTrust itself, but most of the families that were a part of FernTrust were in the citrus industry. And then when the freezes came in the early 80s, it pretty much wiped out all of the citrus production in this area, unfortunately. But as you see the floor we're standing here, this originally was a tangerine packing facility. And you may or may not hear it here in a minute if a train goes by, but it butts directly up to the railway system, where they would hand load tangerine crates onto trains and send them up north. But like I said, after the freezes, the different growers around this area were really thinking, do we want to put more citrus back in, or would we like to do something different? And they kind of shifted gears, which a lot of people in the agricultural industry like to do. We like to be as diversified as possible. So they put in some more foliage, mainly leatherleaf. And really, no one grower had enough to send themselves a full ocean container or more a week to overseas. So they banded together and kind of became FernTrust. It was a great opportunity for growers to come together and really serve a common goal, where they had enough foliage to surface to do that. And then it's kind of just blossomed from there, basically.
Why is it so important that when you were thinking about creating the farm, that it had to be enough to fill a container to go overseas at that time?
Well, as some people may or may not know, the flower markets over there are insanely large compared to a lot of the ones here in the States. So mass production is something that is utilized more over there than what it is here. And for freight purposes, they didn't want to book a partial container. They wanted to book the whole container. So we just needed to know that we had enough production that we could supply whatever they would be needing over there to fulfill their needs. So that was something, like I said, for freight purposes, it definitely helped the cost of freight for them to fill an entire container ship versus a little portion of it.
So once again, the flower market overseas kind of controlled what we're doing over here.
Exactly, it does. Yes, it definitely did at that time, especially. Now, we can talk about it more here in a little bit, but production has definitely changed. It used to be about 80% of flowers and foliage that was grown in the United States. Now that has dropped to 20 for flowers here in the United States, and most of it is produced outside of the United States. We are really glad that we have a little bit of a niche market here with foliage, and that has not happened with the foliage. It's mainly the flowers that it's happened to. But yeah, so definitely a change of pace here.
So started with leatherleaf, but now you're like very diverse.
Yes,
tons
so
of different
many
products.
foliages. We joke that if it's green, we grow it, with some exceptions. But yeah, we have over 200 varieties of foliage, and we're constantly trying to add. And it's not just stuff we grow ourselves. We'll also bring in and outsource stuff from Washington, California, North Carolina. And we do actually import from South America for some of those specialty palms and things like that for funeral work as well.
And do you also do development for new products? I know there's something called Victoria's Lace.
Yes, yes. And I wish I got some kind of piece of the pie for that, but I don't. So that's what happens when you're family here. You don't get the pieces of the pie from selling that. But yes, we have a specialty leatherleaf called Victoria's Lace. It's a much daintier, is how I like to describe it. Softer edges, and it truly does kind of have a lace look to it. And we can show you some of it as well, but it's becoming more and more popular. Just something different than the traditional leatherleaf. But we also do other production lines that are a little bit different than a lot of companies. We have a full paint line, which we call the ColorFresh process, which we can dive into as much as you want. But it's a special process that we do where foliage is dip dyed in a water-safe latex-based paint so that it won't bleed into your water. But specialty times of the year, like right now in Christmas, blues, reds, gold, silver, white, we're painting so many bunches. Just for little accent pieces, something a little bit different. We like to be able to help our customers stand out from other customers, and that's something that you can do. But if you think about it, at certain times of the year, there's certain color varieties that are just not available in flowers. So this is a great alternative for when that happens. You have a bride that's very specific and wants this shade of lilac, and you're not going to find a lilac flower at that time of year. This is a great substitute for that as well.
And so do you just do a color match to a swatch
We
or a
try
sample?
to do as close as possible. There's some foliages that it's just never going to happen to get an exact match. What we prefer for our customers to do is to send a Pantone color of what they're looking for, and then our paint room kind of mixes and matches until you can get it as close as possible to that shade that they're looking for.
And I know that there are certain foliages that take the paint so much better.
Yeah. So most foliage, I would say 99% of them will paint metallic. So gold, silver, rose gold, copper, that will hold very well. But then there's some foliages that it just doesn't work. So in the salal tip, some stuff with that leaf feel, ruscus, Italian and Israeli, and then eucalyptus, it will only paint in the metallic colors. It won't paint the regular colors very well. But your asparagus family is where you really get the most bang for your buck. So tree fern, plumosis, Ming, spring rye, foxtail, any of those, it's a myriad of colors you can think of that we can paint those.
So similar to the way we think about it, things that will accept the glue.
Yes.
When you're gluing things together.
Yes.
Also seems that it'll accept the paint.
Exactly. And it's all about the leaf feel. So like the salal is pretty slimy sometimes. And like with your eucalyptus, you will have kind of that waxy feel a little bit every now and then it just doesn't hold the paint as well. So it's something that we can try. We've tried it before, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So we never mind giving it a shot. We just don't want anyone to feel disappointed in what they end up getting. So a lot of the times, if it's a weird thing that's out of the box that we don't normally do, we'll have them tell us what they want. We'll send a few bunches for them to look at and see if it's something that they can make work in their operation or not. Because a lot of the time, something that we think doesn't look right is what they love too. And that's sometimes the beauty of it, is the eye of the beholder is really, you know, where you see the beauty. What I might like is going to be different than what you like, and what you like is going to be different than what I like.
That's a great way to look at it. And I can share with you that we had some painted tree fern that we got several months ago, and after it dried up, it looked almost just as good as it did fresh.
Yes. So certain foliages really do a really good job in the drying process. Magnolia is one that will paint in gold, silver, and red. It'll paint red as well, really well. And people, we can consistently see them use it year after year. Some of the same people are like, that we haven't sent to you in a couple years, but it's still in your product line, and it looks great. I will say that just like if you bought it fresh, your spring rye, your Ming, those type things, they'll hold the color, but it will start shedding a little bit, just like it would if it was a fresh product. So you just have to keep that in mind a little bit, but the color stays beautifully.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked your dad just a little bit ago. Growing up in a family business, tell us a little bit how that has been and maybe some of the special dynamics.
Yeah, it is definitely special. We'll say it that way. As anything, family-wise, I mean, whether you had a restaurant or a farm, you're going to have a love-hate relationship with it on some days. You love all those people so much, but when you're around them 24/7, and I don't know if he mentioned it or not, but the majority of the family members also live on the farm too. So we have our own little compound, you could say. You do have to be careful. You don't want hurt feelings or anything like that, but you still at the end of the day have a business to run. So awkward sometimes. But the good news is, no matter what, it is your family, and you know you love them, and they know you love them too. But working dynamics, it can be hard sometimes when you have your aunt as the accountant, your dad as your boss. You know, you have, not only in the office do we have these dynamics, but in the packing house too. We have a husband and wife. One runs CPD, our consumer products division, and the husband is the packing house manager. So it's not just us, it's in the packing house as well. And then cousins and brothers and sisters all work. So they're doing it just like we are. You're working with your immediate family. It's not always fun, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I know one of the things that your dad talked about was the challenge with labor right now,
Oh, it's hard.
and that you've got some people that have been here for a very long time. We talked to one that's been here for 30 years working, which means that you've probably their families have grown up with your families as well.
So I joke that Juan is my Hispanic father, because genuinely that might be who you talk to. I'm not sure. We'll have to find out. But he's been here since the inception of FernTrust, and I feel like he truly was like another dad figure. And it's awesome because I've seen his kids grow up with me. I went to high school with all of his kids. They work here in the summer sometimes, and that's great. They've also seen me work from the bottom to the top, which I think gives them a true feel that I'm in it for the right reasons, and I did have to work to where I'm getting. It wasn't something that you're just handed, which, you know, sometimes in family companies does happen. So I think a respect level, it does help with that as well, that those people have seen me work from the bottom to the top, and truly have a better appreciation for how that process works. Because some of them, the same way in the packing house, they started out cutting fern, and then they moved to packing boxes, and then they did this and this and this, and now they're running a whole department. So it's just a nice feel that you know the people around you and you've grown up with them.
I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a number of years, even before you were married, and now that you've got a beautiful little girl, is it your thought that she will probably come into the business as well?
Well, good Lord willing, yes. That's something, bless her heart. She is my travel companion, whether she wants to be or not. So I think she's been to 3 Florida State floral conventions.
I think so, yeah.
So since birth, she'll be a me, where she says she was born into the industry, but she's been to 3 of those already. So she looks forward to it. She calls them her floral friends. I mean, Bob Tucker, it's Uncle Bob, and Miss Deb, it's you know, Aunt Deb and Uncle Gus. So all of these people, they really become your family, and she grows up the same way I did, growing up around these people, and it's nice, and I wouldn't have that any other way. And there's a lot of industries that you don't have that dynamic where your kids can come and be accepted in that group and learn from people at the same time. It's not as welcoming, I would say. And you don't have that problem in the floral industry at all. It's great. I was the same way. I went to trade shows with my dad. Our family vacations were planned around whatever trade show was currently going on. And it does seem that Charlotte, bless her heart, whether she wants to or not right now, is going to be the same way. But you'll see if you follow us on social media that she does make quite a few appearances here at FernTrust. She likes to answer phones and take orders. Not the best order taker, but she is only 3 this weekend. This coming weekend, she'll be 3. So she's got a lot of time to practice before she actually has to work here.
Speaking of Florida State Florist Association and trade shows, and we've been around each other a lot at those, you are very involved in the industry. Why is that? Why do you want to be involved in the industry?
Yeah, so I like to give back to an industry that I feel has given back to me. So those floral conventions that I go to, I take away more than what I give. I feel like all of them are that way, whether it's our state association conventions, AIFD, SAF, all of those organizations, they really give back. American Grown is the same way. If I wouldn't have started volunteering with that organization, I mean, a couple years now ago, I was able to be a volunteer designer for the First Ladies Luncheon. I mean, that doesn't happen unless, you know, you're involved in those organizations. And then, like they always say, you only have a seat at the table if you make yourself a seat at the table, and otherwise you're left out. So we want our voices heard in those places as well. So it's just something that we really enjoy. My father instilled that in me as well. He's the same way. He's involved in a ton of organizations, and I feel he thinks the same way as us. We want to give back to who's given to us. So.
Well, we certainly enjoy you being there and being with us constantly and being able to see you. We all refer to it as our floral family, which is very true. We are each other's families and sometimes see each other more than we do our actual families.
Yes, it does feel that way.
Now, we always like to ask one question of every guest, and if you could share one thing about the floral industry, what would be your one thing?
Oh gosh, that's such a hard question. Um, I think, and my father's going to laugh when he sees this. I know he is, because I joke that I hate this saying more than anything, because he said it to me since I was little growing up. But how do you eat an elephant? And it's one bite at a time. So don't be overwhelmed by all the things that the floral industry can offer. Um, just take it one day at a time, one bite of the elephant at a time, per se. But I know something that I've shared with you is eventually, years down the road, I want to be where I'm at a point that I can be AIFD possibly. And that is so overwhelming to think of that process. And I've been talking to Dad about it quite a bit. And it is something that he said that to me. It's like, how do you eat an
Mm-hmm.
elephant? One bite at a time. So I started taking classes with you guys. I took my first one. I have another one in April. I'll be doing the same thing with Florida State. I'll be going to AIFD convention, not testing, just convention, get a feel for it. They have me serving on a panel next year, which is great. But don't be scared to take those first few baby steps to really get to the goal that you want to get to. Something that I truly want to do is really bridge the gap between us as farmers and ranchers and that everyday florist. I don't necessarily get to talk to those everyday florists very often,
Mm-hmm.
but when they call their wholesaler or me directly and want some piece of information, I want to be knowledgeable enough that I understand what they're saying and really and truly can feel like I can help them. Whatever I need to do. And I truly think that taking those floral classes and attending all those conventions and things like that will bridge that gap between me and the everyday user of our products.
That is great information to share. Remember, education is something that you can never have too much of.
That's
Victoria,
for
thank you
sure.
so much for letting us invade your space and be
Anytime.
here and for all the great information and for everything that you do for the industry with your incredible products and everything that you give
Well,
back.
we appreciate all of you guys as well. So thank you for tuning in today.
If you are listening to us, you can also see the recording visually on our YouTube channel and posted. So be sure and check out the information below and reach out to us and see others. And remember, there's no use in crying over spilled petals. We'll see you again soon.